coming up on The Source.
In my opinion, the mayor administration and some council people are big bullies, right? They have this toxic culture of exclusion, this toxic culture of you're a freshman, they're not going to work with you, they're not going to do this with you.
Unless you submit.
Unless you submit.
Yeah.
It just seems as though their Klan meetings are growing down there, and
call
that the
them Klan
racism is running free, right?
We keep playing by the rules, and we constantly being slammed and stepped on. The other folks are, especially them Trumpers, they don't play by any rules. They don't go to jail. At some point, we're going to have to step out and just do what we know is right. Because I still have an issue with those police officers who find themselves involved in something that's going on and they didn't even have the camera on.
Yep.
They should be fired immediately.
Yes.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Shade Darby.
And welcome to The Source. You know, as I'm looking at what's going on in and around our city, we're noticing that things are calming down in this season, and that's how we look at it. To my understanding, there is a report come from Newark that has not been made public yet, but I don't know where we are. Do you have any idea where we are?
Yeah, so they're supposed to finalize it hopefully by the end of this week, and then it will be published. It'll be public for the public to review this report.
Okay.
So I'm excited for everyone to see it. Kind of, it's just they came and selected organizations that should be funded, and said this is the type of technical assistance that they would need to be able to combat the violence that we're facing in our city.
Yeah, but the question is, are we using some of that now? Because it seems like, I don't know whether the calmness is because there's a plan or the calmness is that we're in a season where it's just calm. I mean, I don't know.
Right. I think I don't think it has anything to do with the plan. I think that's just how gun violence works, right? Is you have your down period, and then it goes up, down. I think that's just simply just how it works. And I think even when we come up with the plan for city council, that's just a part of the solution. It's not the solution.
Right.
So it's not going to stop gun violence. It may decrease it some, but we also need a lot of community programming. We need more funding. We need more of those things to really combat gun violence. So it's not the plan.
Okay. Well, you did a very good job with articulating a lot of words to make it look like it could be, but it is not the plan.
No, it is not like the end all be. It's not the solution.
Okay.
It is a part of the solution. The government should play a role, but it's not the answer.
I got you.
No, I agree. Government shouldn't play the entire role, and I look at it as kind of like a 5-point pillar, right? So you have to have the government, you have to have the police, you have to have community leaders, you have to have faith leaders. But what brings them all together is the youth who are disproportionately being affected by the gun violence here in the city, but also people who have been victims of gun violence. And that means whether it's the individual themselves, their family, the community as a whole, which means, you know, if there is a shooting on someone's block and there's someone sitting out on their porch and they witnesses, that's trauma and violence that they're going to deal with as well too. And we've seen what has happened when that last part, does not get the resources it's need to really start addressing this issue. They start to normalize the trauma. And it becomes so normal to them to have to deal with this, to have to live with this. Just like going to the store to buying bread, you know, gun violence becomes a part of their everyday life. And that's what we would hope that everyone's looking to address.
Okay. Now, do you know that Duffy's Hope got a real huge grant on this whole violence situation? Are you aware of that?
I am not aware of that.
Well, I would really, maybe you should connect with Duffy, good guy, and he got a huge grant. Maybe you can be the catalyst to help pull the city with some of the resources that may already be available. I think it was $1 million grant to address, and I hope I'm right when I say whether it was violence or crime, and maybe more towards the youth, but that's where the issue is.
Yep.
So I'm hopeful that maybe you can connect with him and we can get a report back that, okay, you connected and he's going to allocate this, he's going to allocate that, and the city's going to do what it needs to do. Because what I want to make sure is that if there's something available to help with the crime, the city is doing its part as well as the community is doing its part, nonprofits.
And now that you're saying that, it just made me think there should be some type of, and I hate to call things committees or another meeting, but even if that organization isn't a part of the plan that the city has to work with, they should still in some ways work with other programs like Duffy Hope or other programs doing violence prevention or intervention. So that's actually a good point that you brought up. So.
Good.
And maybe just think about that.
Good.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about that program real quick. That's I don't know if it's a new program, but recently I heard about it through Duffy, and that's Project Prevent.
Okay.
And it's preventing violence by engaging a network of teachers, right? Okay. So how do you prevent school-based violence? And I think when you look at it, right, Wilmington is a small, on retrospect, it's a small town compared to the nation, Philly, Baltimore, all these other cities surrounding us as well, too. We have 4.5 times the national average for a city our size in violence, right? Right. So how do we bring that down? Now, yes, 2022 is a better year, but we are still the most violent small city. And that was a part of the reason why the federal government wanted to give this money to Duffy so that he can create this program and build it out to improve school security, also help children and youth who've been involved with violence heal in that process. And then the last part of it is how are you equipping teachers and parents with the tools they need for a multifaceted approach to addressing violence and kind of preventing that as well too.
And supporting what Shanae said, as I've listened to what you giving us some of the points of that grant, it's important that we do add a person like Shanae, who is a city council person, to be able to say, let me connect to see how we can make it stronger. The violence, even though we're small, that we are experiencing in the city of Wilmington is to a level where all hands must be on deck. All hands must be involved. Yeah. And knowing Duffy's personality, I'm sure he's open to receiving assistance from others to help build this up, build it out, and make sure that it is effective. Because if it starts, we're going to have something to maintain. And that's why, when you said what you said and hearing what Shanae shared, I think it becomes important that we try to collaborate together.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So you good with that?
Yeah.
So we're grateful to report to all of you that we don't have any real serious violence that we need to share that has been reported as brother. What's your name? Kobe always say that's reported because some things do not get reported. But for the most part, we feel that there is a calmness, and we hear through the streets what's going on, and we are very grateful for that. I do want to do an update, if there is an update, on Adams Street, because I don't want to ever forget about those residents.
Yeah, so Adams Street has been an ongoing thing, working with the Delaware Health Social Services, working with the residents who were impacted by that. The city hasn't been too much help other than passing a grant of $13,500 that went to Nemours. And then there was a little hiccup with how that money was supposed to be spent.
Oh, so the city gave that money?
The city, the city gave that money to Nemours Foundation.
Oh, okay.
And Nemours Foundation said that they were going to do care packages. Now, as the story says it, and as what the residents brought into my office as well, too, was water bottles that had their logo on it, fanny packs and stuff like that. Something which is good, okay, yes, but they needed actual supplies. They needed toiletries. They needed clothes. They needed sneakers and stuff like that, which some of that money was supposed to go to. And then the other part was that money was supposed to go towards storage. So it was a fight there to get them to actually pay for 3 months additional storage from that money. That, if you read the resolution that passed, it did include storage. So that money was allocated for it. Nemours kind of said we weren't going to use it in that manner, but because it was in the resolution, they had to.
So the question becomes, who's doing the check? to make sure that $13,000 of taxpayers' money is being spent appropriately? Who's doing that?
That's a good question, and that's always the toss-up, right? So, where does the checks and balances come from? And to be honest, I don't know in an instance like that, right?
Well, how can City Council just approve something? How could they just approve something and not have a way to track it?
I think it was a good faith effort that they thought that this foundation, who has previous history of working on the ground, but traditionally with just youth. The Moores is based around young people, that adolescence age. These are adults as well too. So I think that's what created the disconnect right there of what was truly needed. But again, going all the way back, these residents, especially the ones who've been in a motel, they don't have anywhere to cook, right? So either you're getting a hot meal because someone's delivering it to you, or you're going out to a fast food place, right? Which isn't good for you. Now, I like fast food.
You always pick on yourself. Go ahead.
But it's not good for you, right? Especially every single day.
Yeah.
So, this is the things that if the city who passed this resolution back in 2021 for, it was the New Age Blight Bill, and the city is going to continue to use this policy to go after, quote unquote, bad landlords. They have to have a plan that when they go after those landlords, and I'm not saying don't go after, I say shut them all down. But you can't shut them all down and just leave the people on the street.
And that's what the problem.
Because that's going to create a bigger moral issue that I think has to be addressed.
One of the things that we're going to talk about, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and do it now in the midst of this conversation, is leadership within the city council. I know we by no means do we ever want to put Ms. Darby in a position in her role here as a co-host that where she's either the person who got to answer for city council or a person who's the city council person who speaks for city council. But you have your opinions, and we're willing to continue on with that. But this is the problem I'm having, is that the leadership in city council, they strip the city council president of being able to have what I call the authority to appoint and do certain things because of that whole thing with when they voted at the beginning of the year with Hanifa, was she making sure that the agenda was set and they had their agenda done, and now the president of city council has no power. They have a city council chief of staff. Now, to my understanding, the brother who was there is now gone.
Yeah.
We have another person who is being elected this week or being confirmed if everybody vote this week. The problem is, do you know anything about the young lady that I'm hearing through the grapevine is interested? Do you think she'll be able to bring leadership to this?
Yeah, position? I think she'll definitely be able to bring leadership. And what I really like about her is she's not too connected. And I like people who aren't too connected. I think they come with different ideas, different ways of thinking, different ways of being a politician or being in in this world of politics. She is a young lady, probably around the same age as me, and I want more young people in government.
You call yourself young?
Politics. Yeah, I'm young.
All right.
I'm young.
We'll keep moving.
Okay. So getting more young people in politics, and I am the youngest.
Okay.
I'm young old.
Yeah, there you go.
Auntie,
I like that.
I could be auntie, I could be sis, So
and grandma too.
Yeah, not grandma, no, not yet, not yet. So. But yeah, so I think she'll be a great asset to the team. It's just that I really think we need a chief of staff that's going to be able to stand up to the mayor administration. In my opinion, the mayor administration and some council people are big bullies, right? They have this toxic culture of exclusion, this toxic culture of you're a freshman, they're not going to work with you, they're not going to do this with you.
Unless you submit.
Unless you submit, right? And you agree with everything they're saying. And a lot of times it doesn't matter the approach for them. You can simply ask for a meeting about something and they will ignore you, exclude you from conversations, knowing that you're like fees and fines or housing, things that you're passionate about and that you have spoke about publicly into them. They will exclude you. I think we really need a chief of staff to stand up to the mayor administration. She has to go in there and knowing, like, she can't easily have her feelings be hurt. She has to be able to stand up against the things that they're going to throw at her.
And they will be throwing a lot of things at them, at her. And when you was talking about the toxic environment, that's one of the reasons why I'm jumping around a little bit, but that's one of the reasons why I'm not buying that they did it in good faith. That gave that 13. The people on council, not every person, but most of the people on council clearly understand what they're doing. Obviously, that was a good organization that probably didn't need much checks on the bullies' checklist. But the reality of it is, whenever we're using taxpayers' money, we should always have a check and balance. Now, I'm not from, the big university. I'm from the place where you check the checker. You make sure that everybody's doing what they need to be doing, especially when you're giving a service to people who need our assistance. And going back to the to the chief of staff, a potential person, I hope and trust that she's able to be strong enough to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to buy into the politics on either side. I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do and move forward. I do know bullying goes on, though. And now that I'm in the process of trying to build here in Southbridge again, this is the third time, I'm seeing it at a level I've never seen it before. And it could be because of this type of administration it's in, but I'm all right because I know how to wait. The Bible teaches me, I'm sorry to be a preacher, the race isn't given to the swift nor to the strong, but the one that endured to the end. I will be around. That's why I'm talking about that chief of staff. I will be around when the administration is gone. And that's what I've learned, to settle myself down and let them do what they need to do. But I hope this person, young lady, will be able to be strong enough to say, you know what, I will deal with this and I'm going to handle it and put it in the public. Put it in the public. If something goes wrong and she thinks she's right, she need to put it in the public. I hope she get a chance to meet with me. That would be really nice.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so, as they continue to fill these positions, it's been a vacant position for months now. Yeah. So hopefully it brings more stability to council. At the time of this recording, they haven't taken a vote, but by the time this airs, you will be able to go online and see whether or not that resolution appointing the person to the position passed or not.
Okay. And where is she from again, by the way? Do you know?
I think she's from Wilmington. Okay. I think she's from Wilmington.
Do you know anything about her? I mean, since we got this moment.
Yeah, so the person is Mona Parikh. She has been involved in Delaware for a very long time. She's an attorney, real accomplished attorney, and also has worked with the Horn program down at UD. Okay. So that's kind of where I know her from. But she has been a very, very good advocate here in the state. She's done volunteer work with organizations like Network Delaware, Delaware Center for Justice, just around, equity and justice in our society.
Who recommended her? Do we know?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm laughing with you, but do you know who recommended her?
A few people recommended
her. A few people recommended that we're not going to disclose? You're not required, okay.
Yeah, a few people recommended her, and, I want to say that it came from people that it's hard to trust anybody, but people that I have some trust in.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, because we tend to think you're a straight shooter, because that's why they said all that dirty literature out on you, because you're a straight shooter, and you don't take tea for the cold. Yeah. We like people like you.
Yeah, I love it.
Amen. All right, let me move to one more area, and that is the whole after we move from the Adams Street, because I do want to make sure that we address the Adams Street piece to let them know that we're still thinking about them. The city council now has chief of staff. We hope by the time of the airing of this, that person will have been certified as the chief of staff. The last thing that I want to talk about in this segment is this Indiana person from the school board, Indiana River, I think it's called.
Indian River.
Yeah, India River. I just don't understand how in the world can this person not be removed, given the cancel culture that we got going on here, unless it's not for certain people.
Yeah, so, just to give some background on what we're talking about, a few weeks ago we talked about a state trooper who's also the school board president, was at a game in Sussex against Howard Votek from Newcastle County. And during that, there was an argument in which this school board president and state trooper says to the coaches, you're not from Newcastle. This isn't Newcastle County, boy. Which has 100% racial underlinings to it. And this again, comes off the back of them flying the Confederate flag down there, them voting to uphold white supremacy. And it just seems as though between the three Georgetown City Council members, Towson, Barnett, and Barlow, and the school board president, Mr. Layfield, it just seems as though their Klan meetings are growing down there, and that the racism is running free, right? And then on top of that, you had a motion made against the president, Rodney Layfield, by the entire school board, which failed at a 5-4 vote against the motion to vote no confidence in the school board president. So 5 other members, including him, 4 other members and himself, voted.
So he broke the tie.
He broke the tie. Voted not to vote no confidence in himself.
Oh my gracious.
Yeah.
And people want to know why there's such anger. People are treated differently based on who you are and where you are. That is just my favorite word. That is egregious. Just outright egregious. I don't know. I'm hoping that those of you who are watching us will realize that this is just not fair. You had 2 coaches who were down there playing a game. They win the game, and the man is so angry that who he is came out. The racism that he possessed, who he came out. He called them boys. You ain't from down here. And he should have been fired that day. But instead, he was able to linger around. Then when they go to take the vote of no contest, he voted himself. I'm going to stick with that. We're not going to go that route. Unfair. And this is why there's so much anger when we see in the justice system how you treat people who don't have the influence, the power, and color. That's not fair. I don't know. I'm just going to leave that there, but that's just unfair.
No, again, and whenever you have someone in a position of power, right? And in this case, he's in 2 positions of power, right? One, the school board, because the state has decentralized our Department of Education. The school board pretty much has a lot of power over what's going into the schools, what type of policies being produced, what type of curriculums being introduced to our students. This is the same school board that voted no confidence in John Carney for simply saying y'all have to wear masks in schools. Not only to keep the other kids protected, but also the staff. And when I say staff, it's not just teachers, right? It's the janitors, it's the lunch lady, it's the nurses, the receptionists, right? They have made this school board very political. And you see once again with this vote what side of it they lie on. But then also he's a state trooper.
Right,
he is a state trooper. And we have seen time and time again how officers treat black people. And if you view a grown man who is a coach of a football team, another football team, and you're just in the stands, and you have the audacity to go call him boy, as a black man in America, calling me boy is one of the biggest insults you can have. So, again, this is what we're dealing with. So, no, I don't think it should just stop with this vote of no confidence. I think that we should still put pressure on the school or in the school district to do something, but also on the state police to do something. He should lose his job.
Because at the end of the day, that's who can do that.
Yes, and also they need to look into every case he's been involved with.
Right, because that was his mentality.
Right.
And I think it was Maya Angelou who said, when a person show you who they are, believe them. And I've learned that sometimes it takes the pressure to squeeze a person so you can see who they really are.
Right.
And it was all reeking. And you made a comment about the Klansmen and how that's what they are down there. I believe that, and that's why so many of y'all who go down there get them tickets, because they watch and say, oh, there's another one. I have no more to say about that. I'll be kind. All right.
I lived down there for a little bit.
Oh, did you?
Rough, yeah.
No wonder you so rough.
I lived in Bridgeville for like 6 months.
Oh, 6 months.
I begged my mom to come back to Wilmington. It was when I was a teenager.
Oh, okay.
I'm never going back.
Yeah, and that's sad. That's really sad, because if you think about it, that should be a safe place, because you're out of the city. You said Bridgeville?
Yeah, Bridgeville.
So it's a smaller place, and you're out of the city, so that should be a safe place. But in actuality, it's worse.
It wasn't.
People don't understand this, Ms. Darby, and it's just the truth, and that is sometimes racism is stronger than physical violence because how you're treated and suppressed mentally, and some of the things they do to you physically, it can create a level of pain that is unspeakable.
Right.
Unacceptable. Well, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to leave it there because, I'll start getting off script and I'll get in trouble with nobody. So we'll be right back.
New guests, new conversations, new stories every Sunday at 11 a.m. Grab your cup of coffee and tune in with Dr. Curry for our weekly episodes of Coffee with Curry.
And we're back. Kobe, we at that moment.
Yes.
Called the Kobe's Corner. What's going on?
So first, I want to talk about some local news here. On Wednesday, it was the sentencing trial for Auditor Kathleen McGinnis. This has been an ongoing situation since earlier this year when charges were filed and she was indicted on 5 charges, 2 felonies, 3 misdemeanors. She was later convicted on 3 of those misdemeanors, and then a judge threw 1 out after. So on Wednesday evening was her sentencing, and she is the only statewide elected official in the history of Delaware to be accused and convicted of crimes while actually in office.
I was going to say.
That last part, wow.
In office, okay. Go ahead, keep going.
She wasn't sentenced to jail,
right,
even though that was the push. The prosecution was pushing for 2 years in jail, 1 year for each of the remaining misdemeanors. She was given 500 hours of community service, a year of probation, and $10,000 fine for her misdemeanor conflict of interest and misdemeanor convictions. Now, why does that matter? During the trial, during the sentencing, her attorney, Robert Wood, made an announcement that she had, the night prior, she had submitted her letter of resignation effective November the 4th. And I think that was done, and this is just my opinion. I think that move was done to try to stop them from sentencing her to jail time. So I think once the sentencing came down and the 500 hours and the year of probation was handed out, the governor put out a statement that he will be taking the proper steps to remove her from office. Before he was able to do that, at 4:30, effective at 4:30 on Wednesday, she officially resigned from the office earlier than what she had originally said she was going to resign from the office, which now puts it in the governor's hand. He accepted the resignation, but now he has to choose someone to replace her while we're still in the middle of an election cycle.
So why can't he? I know this may sound wacky, but why can't he just put what's her name?
Lydia York.
As an intern.
So I am a huge supporter of Lydia York. She is one of the most qualified people we have had run for the auditor's office. But at the end of the day, I believe that is the public's opinion, right? The public should have the decision whether she should be in that office or not. And she still has a general election to win. So
no, the public will not be making that decision. The governor will be making that decision. So it says the governor. I'm not as political as you are. If the governor is going to make that decision, then I'm saying, why can't the governor just appoint her? If she loses the election, she will have to leave. She's qualified, and honestly, when we looked at her resume, when we looked at what she could bring to the office, many people across this state agreed she's the one, regardless of the other person that was in there who was never qualified. Question I want to go back and ask you is, why can't the governor just appoint her, and if she loses?
He can. Okay. I am not in favor of that, mainly because I think it would be hypocritical of us.
How?
In 2018, when Tom Wagner decided that he wasn't going to run for re-election, which would have made it 34 years in office, he got rid of his deputy and appointed the Republican nominee, James Badola, as auditor, who had no experience. And they used that as, look, he has experience in the office now, vote for him. I think Lydia, outside the office right now, is already qualified, but I don't want to taint her win by appointing her to that position. There are other qualified people who work in that office already, who are actually good people who do auditing, who understand auditing, who can be a placeholder until that position is sworn in January.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, y'all too, it makes sense. I still say they did it, and I'm glad you put up the 2018 because that's exactly, I did hear a lot of us African Americans and other groups saying that that's unfair, that is not the way you do it, and y'all setting it up for that. But in this case, I see something a little bit differently in that she was already elected by a party, which is his party.
Correct.
And I'm saying he was not. In 2018, he was not. It was their way of making sure no one can say he had no experience, and they even helped him with his experience, making him successful in certain things.
He was the nominee for the Republicans, just like Lydia is the nominee for the
They
Democrats.
didn't have nobody running against him.
There was no primary.
Okay,
correct.
then, so stop trying to give me all the facts and let's deal with the reality. It was no primary because he was the Republicans. They said this is who's going to run, and that's who ran. And he won.
But, just knowing Lydia and knowing the root of her campaign has been transparency, stability, and accountability. So I think, just knowing her as well, too, I believe 100% that she's going to win in November, and I think she wants to do it that way.
And can I just say this, and I'm going to let you go on with your not coffee, what is this we call it? Your corner.
Kobe Corner.
I'm going to say this. I am getting a little perturbed or upset because we keep, and I'm saying we, African Americans, people, Latinos, we keep playing by the rules. And we constantly being slammed and stepped on. The other folks are, especially them Trumpers, they don't play by any rules. They don't go to jail. At some point, we're going to have to step out and just do what we know is right. What we know is right. Because that's what they're doing. What they think they know is right. So I hear you, and I'm going to be your thorn in your side every time you come with your both of y'all. When y'all come with this, that's not right. Well, it wasn't right in 2018. They did it anyhow. Now.
I agree with you, but at the end of the day, I'm still black. We still black. And while we may not like it, there's still a system that is built.
No, we like, why we not like what? Being black?
The system.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I love being black. We may not like the system, right? But that system is still designed to target us and target minorities where our white counterparts don't get the same thing. So I'm always in the mindset, don't give anyone any additional fuel to use against you. Trust me, I'm willing to get in good trouble. I'm willing to shut some stuff down. I have no problem doing that. But when I do it, I'm controlling my own narrative. I don't want anyone else to control
And you also make sure all the rules are followed. You even get permits.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay, well, let's not talk no more. Okay.
I know my legal right. You may arrest me that day, but I'm going to see you in court, and I'm going to sue you. That's the NAACP way right there.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
I believe in the court system in that light. And we have some great civil rights attorneys, especially on the federal level, who's always there to help. But yeah. Next up, I want to talk about another local initiative that's going on, and that's the Women to Learn Collaborative. This is something that has stemmed from a lawsuit from the NAACP, the Opportunity Funding lawsuit, on how we can expand efforts to grow a strong and diverse teacher workforce, how we can broaden efforts to support younger learners, right? So that K to 8 range right there. And how we can kind of rectify some of the issues that we've had over the years with how our city kids are treated versus the county kids in their respective school districts. So the city, as I've said multiple times, is broken up into 5 school districts, right? You have the Votech, you have Red Clay, Brandywine, Christina, and Colonial. The Women to Learn Collaborative brings 3 of those together. The 3 that have schools here, non-high schools in the city of Wilmington. Votech has no K to 8, and Colonial has no schools period. So the 3 school districts that have schools here in the city of Wilmington, how can we better help the kids who are going to schools in their communities? We saw the numbers from Brandywine when it was compared to Harlan, which is a city school, versus Hanby, Crawcroft, and literacy, writing proficiency, math. The numbers were atrocious. Harlan was the worst school in Brandywine School District. The city schools in all these schools are the worst. They need the most help. So as of Wednesday night, Red Clay voted unanimously. I said that wrong.
That's all right.
Voted to all support the Wilmington Learning Collaborative. Why is that so important? Because they were the last one standing of the 3. Absolutely. Christina went first. Yes. They passed it. Brandywine School District, after 2 hours of debate, passed their resolution, right? And I wasn't able to attend. I attended the other 2. I wasn't able to attend Red Clay. I had a work event that night. So I was on my phone the whole time. So after a lot of debate, they came together and they passed that MOU to move forward, right? This is a 20-page MOU that I encourage everyone to go online to read over, especially if you have kids in our system right now or thinking about having kids or have grandkids who are in one of those school districts. See how they're going to be impacted by this and see how you can continue to be a voice around the table. Now, this sets up the structure. There's still a lot of questions left, don't get me wrong, and there's still a lot of build-out left. But, you know, the only members that we know that are definitely going to be on the Wilmington Learning Collaborative is Dr. Adriana Bone from Red Clay, Reverend Shanika Perry from Bethel AME, who's also the school board member from Brandywine School District for the city, and Alethea Smith-Tucker, who's the school board member from Christina.
All women. You got any men?
Yes. Oh. So the 3 superintendents will also be on on this board. So that's 6 of them so far. There's going to be a former teacher, a parent, and a community member as well too. And then that will round out who's on the board actually. But again, there's going to be a lot of opportunities, subcommittees, and ways for the community to engage as well too. Yeah. And then they're going to hire staff for this, right? So the biggest is definitely going to be executive director, who I think they should look at someone who understands all 3 school districts. And because Delaware is so decentralized with our education system, even though those school districts are surrounding each other, they are very different. And it's going to be very critical that you have someone who can understand the operations of all 3 of them and work with all 3 school board members who are on this and all 3 superintendents as well.
I just hope it doesn't become a political thing. I think it's a very good initiative. I just hope that when you start talking about 3 different school district, school board presidents, and you start talking about people from different dynamics, a lot of times politics get in the way when the real issue is our children who are suffering. And what I hope, and I had just earlier today on our Coffee with Curry, I had a conversation with B.B. Coker, and I talked to her about the whole DSEG, and I never agreed with her, and I had to confess publicly that now I do agree, because our children are being bussed all over the place, and they're not getting to those schools on time a lot of times. Yep. They're not eating their breakfast on time, and I'm very upset about it. I'm not going to use this as my time to start airing about that, but I'm very upset about it, and I think if we are to really educate children, we have to educate the whole child, not partially, not just the brain. The whole child has to be educated. Yeah. So whoever's on it, I hope they serve the children.
Right, and I think, the whole part of this MOU, if I, have to summarize 20 pages real quick, I have a few bullet points that I wrote down, is how do they rebuild the trust in the system, but also how do you re-engage and get rid of that lack of engagement from the parents aspect, from the local government aspect, and all the other contributing outside, right? How do you reduce the educator and learner burnout? Almost 70% of the teachers at Harlan, which is a school I got to learn more about when I was running for city council, 70% of those teachers are gone in 3 years. Wow. They want to go somewhere else. Yep. That's horrible. Yeah. How are they making sure resources are going to the schools that typically do not receive the necessary resources to meet basic student needs, right? How do you reduce the school transfer and the absences of students? And then again, which I think is the biggest part of this, which you just touched on, how do you address the institutional racism and barriers that have been built over the years in decades of this education system that, we got to look at trauma. We have to look at the fact that the city of Wilmington has one of the highest rates of people living in poverty, and just an inequitable education system altogether.
Yeah, it is. And we got some buildings, too, that we can use to get some high schools in the city. So that, because Moyer is still available, we got this Palmer School, which was the worst mistake Christina made. But we got buildings, and I want to bring our children together. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then, so again, just staying on this racial justice initiative and what's going on right now, I do want to talk about another thing that is going on. There is a new initiative, thanks to our Department of Energy on a federal level, which is bringing a new initiative to the University of Delaware. The Center of Clean Hydrogen is the name of it, and it's looking at how they can transition clean energy by reducing the cost of hydrogen technologies. Now, we all know that when it comes to pollution, when it comes to environmental injustices, who are the people who are affected by it the most? And that's communities of color, right? We are significantly underrepresented in who benefit from, the oil companies, stocks, and stuff like that. But we are the ones who are overrepresented in the negativities of it, right? You can look at communities such as the Route 9 corridor, how South Bridge has been impacted over the years, how Riverside and Northeast Wilmington, Ida, you can see how communities like this have been impacted. So this is a new initiative that came from the Biden administration, and it's going to be housed right here in Delaware, on working on how they can be more helpful in lowering those prices so that it's available to the public at a better price. That is on the same thinking of what they're doing with electric vehicles right now as well too. If you wanted to get an electric vehicle about a year and a half ago, you're paying anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 for one. Now those prices are starting to drop. You can get a 300-mile range electric vehicle, fully electric vehicle, for about $34,000, right? So that has dropped almost half, and those prices are still dropping as that becomes more regular, as there's more investment in electric charging places. Why? Because if you live in a city, Philadelphia, D.C., New York, Wilmington, most people don't have garages, right? So where are you going to charge your electric vehicle? So increasing EV stations and stuff like that. So this has been a huge part of the energy efficient policy agenda with the Biden administration, and I just wanted to highlight how clean energy solutions is going to be beneficial for minority communities who are traditionally the ones on the front line of the negative impact of climate change.
Gotcha. And we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I mean, no. We're running out of time with climate change. Because every time things are just happening and happening and happening, and we're seeing so much happening that now correcting it may be too late.
Yeah.
So everything we can do with it.
And I think, you have this younger generation, Sunrise Movement, and all these other organizations that have come up who said, look, we want to be able to live into our 60s, 70s, or 80s. Right. But the way the world is changing right now, it will not be sustainable by the time we get there. We have to have bold action. Yes. And you have some people in power who said, no, we can wait some longer. I've been good, so you'll be good. Right. And that's why you're seeing so many young people getting engaged, so many young people running for office and looking to address these issues, since it's falling on some deaf ears.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, I'm going to talk about Jarena Green. This is a case that I've been very involved with. I've been working with the NAACP, Delaware Poor People's Campaign on this one. Like I said before, she's a 17-year-old girl who sustained a stress fracture in her back when an officer decided to sit on her back and manhandle her. Now, this officer, don't know his weight, but he's about bigger than me. So you do the math. And Jarena is a 17-year-old girl who has an artificial hip, who is, under 150 pounds. There was body-worn camera, and then there was also cell phone footage. Now, what the cell phone footage shows is that the officer was sitting on her back for about 20 to 30 seconds. What the footage shows, the body-worn camera footage that they released that was edited, it had a nice narration to it. They cropped things, they zoomed in, they circled things that they wanted to highlight, but not everything, showed that the officer was only on top of her for 8 seconds. The audio, right? So we know how these body-worn cameras work. The audio has about a 15 to 30-second delay. Okay. The officer's audio does not come on until they are walking Jarena to the car and she's asking for her inhaler, her asthma inhaler, in her pocket. And then the audio comes on and shows the officer being a good Samaritan. We have requested, and we echo the request of the family, that we want the full, unedited, raw body-worn camera footage released. Now, if the Newcastle County Police want to continue to play these games, we will take them to court. That's bottom line. They played these games when they manhandled a 16-year-old girl in their police station. They didn't show the body-worn camera, which they're supposed to have on. She gets thrown into her cell, and she comes out, no shoes, no nothing, and they act like it was only a few minutes later. They only released the hallway camera footage. We want to see the body-worn camera footage. Why? We advocated for this so that we can see exactly what's happening. Since y'all always say we don't know what's happening, you don't know what's happening in those split seconds, then release the full footage. Let us hear what you were saying and how you were interacting with minors here in the city of Wilmington. You're acting with children here in the Newcastle County.
Yeah, the question I want to ask is, I don't know the law, but I thought you all fought so hard to get the body-worn camera so that we can have transparency.
Yes.
Right.
So why are they editing?
So that portion has to come from the Council of Police Training. And the person who is supposed to be helping them draft that policy is the chair of the House Public Safety Committee and also chair of the law enforcement task force that they put together, and that's Frank Cook. And this is why I've been so critical of Frank Cook over the last 2 years, because while he may have lost the battle on the field when it comes to getting these body-worn cameras passed in the General Assembly and signed by the governor, and he has used
lost the battle? He didn't want that neither?
He didn't want that. He has used his power in the background to delay this even more, to delay this process, to delay accountability and transparency. And this is why it's so critical to pay attention to what everyone's doing. Now, am I saying Frank is a horrible person? Absolutely not. I honestly, I have nothing personal against the guy. But when it comes to policy and advancing my community, if we have to go at it and we have to see, and we don't see eye to eye, I'm going to keep pushing. And that's where we're at.
Can I just say this, because you're a part of the political scene, you are a part of the civil rights / political scene. I'm a part of the pulpit scene. This is the biggest problem we're having in our community right now. This is the problem. We think that because a person who is speaking up for someone who does not have a voice, because we're speaking up for that person or persons, then we become a threat to people's positions. If you do your job, then there will be no conflict. And it's not, you didn't have to get on this camera and say you don't have a problem with him, because that's not the issue.
Right.
I know that's the way it's being perceived.
Yeah.
All the time.
But it's not fair.
Right.
Because the truth of the matter is, if right now we're talking about a camera that was released, camera footage that was released, but it was edited. But it would not have been edited. It would have to have been released freely had whoever was in charge of it did their job.
Correct.
Boy, I wish Street was here, because I would use some of his words right now.
Right.
Right is right and wrong is wrong. It has nothing to do with no personal how I feel about a person. We speak for those who can. This young lady, they put out a nice rosy response to their camera footage. That ain't what we saw on those the cell phone stuff. So when will we get this? What pressure do we need to put out there to say, look, I know you're a state representative, but you too can be removed if need be. Because I made that comment before, and he immediately accused me of trying to get rid of him. I don't play these games with these people. But the point is, do your job.
Right.
That's all we're saying. Do your job. And the job is to protect your people. I was going to go so far that I was going to say something.
Don't get me started. No, I'm good.
I
agree exactly with what he's saying for all politicians. Yeah. So, not even just Frank Cook.
Right. And that's why I'm going to continue to lift my voice. Even if they don't approve my application for me to help my seniors, I'm going to continue to lift my voice very loud and like a trumpet and cry loud. So
what's that song called? Lift every
voice and sing till the earth and heaven rings. Ring with the harmony of liberty. I know the whole thing because I live it. Okay? Yes. Not just say it.
Right.
All right. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, did I break in? I'm frustrated with this. I didn't even know it was him who all I want to know is I know you all fought for it. Yes. So I wasn't trying to set you up so you can tell me his name. I know you all fought for it. Y'all closed things down. It was promised. They got cameras now. Sometimes they're not even wearing it. Because I still have an issue with those police officers who find themselves involved in something that's going on and they didn't even have the camera on.
Yep.
They should be fired immediately.
Yes.
I agree.
But there's no rule that says you get fired for not wearing your camera.
Exactly.
Unacceptable. And you want to know why I keep telling you to stop letting them give you a chicken dinner and you vote for the people? We have to start dealing with this stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, as we continue to go forward, the fight doesn't stop. It does not stop whatsoever. So we're, going to continue to advocate for this. We're going to continue to mobilize around this. And if this is something you care about, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Fair Policing or Delaware Police Accountability Now at the ACLU. And we're going to keep working heavily on this.
Good. And we'll be right back.
Tune in at 8 a.m. every Sunday for our worship services. Join us at 9 a.m. on YouTube and Facebook Live by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church. We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
News all across the nation. Wilmington's latest headlines. Advocating for change in the community with Dr. C.T. Curry, Kobe Owens, and Shanae Darby. Tune in to The Source every Sunday at 5 p.m.
And we're back. Real quick, we just want to really, not real quick, but I want to just spend this last few moments we have together talking about souls to the poll. It's very important. We often talk about people need to vote, engage in the process. People need to be a part in it. And honestly, the last one we had was briefly, it wasn't done in enough time, but it did produce some things for us. So, Kobe, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about souls to the polls.
Yeah. So, this is my favorite time. Every 2 years, it is election time in Delaware. It's election time all across this nation. As a political, I guess you could call me a nerd, whatever. I love this time, right? I like helping engage with people and talking to people about what matters most to them and making sure they get to the polls. This year, we have a new system called early voting, which is a 10-day window starting on October 28th and goes until November the 6th that allows you to go down to one of the 14 places in the state of Delaware. All you have to do is live in the county, and you can vote anywhere in that county at one of those spots, right? So it's 5 for Newcastle County, 5 for Sussex, and 4 for Kent. You can vote at any of them. So for me, I'm a Newcastle County resident. Last time I early voted at the Shipyard Shops on the riverfront.
Me too.
This year, I think it's critical that we make sure black people have their voices heard, and that young people also have their voices heard, and that those individuals who are aging in place can also figure out a way to get to the polls, whether their polling place has been moved so they can't get there on election day, to make sure that they have rides to the polls, right? So I think, what we're doing this year, we're pulling together a coalition of faith leaders, a coalition of community member advocacy groups, in a nonpartisan way. We don't care who you're voting for, just get out and vote. And that's going to take place on November the 6th. And we're all going to meet down at the Shipyard Shops here in Wilmington at the riverfront. It's a huge parking lot out there. We're planning some fun activities, have some music, some food, and we're all going to go vote together, vote as a community, and vote as a village, something that I think we have lost over the years. But also, we can't just sit back and do nothing, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of issues going around. We have to show our power through our vote, and that's our voice. We cannot just sit back and agonize. We have to be organizing and mobilizing to get the results we want to see in our community. And we can only do that if we're bringing people together. So if you are interested in joining us and meeting us down there, decorate your car, have, while you're voting on your car, write on the little, chalk markers, the liquid chalk markers, while you're voting. Join the voter parade, and come on down to the Shipyard Shops November 6th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be a fun time. We have a flyer that we're going to put up as well, too. It's going to be a fun time. Bring your family, bring your neighbors, bring anyone you may know, friends or whatever. As long as they live in the county, tell them to come on down and join us.
Well, I think that's going to be fun. It's like a tailgate party situation, I guess.
Yes.
And everybody's just going to do what they do.
Yeah.
And I hope they all will come down on November the 4th.
November the 6th.
Oh, November the 6th. Okay. I was trying to look and make sure. Is that a Sunday?
It's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday. So that's going to be the actual Souls to the Poll day.
Yes.
Even though they're going to have early voting
Correct.
starting the 28th. Souls to the Poll is November the 6th. So please make sure that you go out, you vote. Go to church that morning. And, and for those of you, like at Zion, when we did it, we have 2 services here on Sunday morning. After the 9 o'clock service, I told them I'll meet them down there after the 11 because I need to get a 2-minute sleep so I can get ready for the next service. But we went out afterwards, and I was so glad to see so many people there. And I'm hoping and trusting that, they'll do what they need to do and
right.
come out.
And the key aspect of this, and we're doing it on a Sunday, so we're calling it Vote Faithfully Sunday. So come on out, vote. But again, like you said, early voting starts on October 28th and runs through November the 6th. So if you can't make it with us and you can't make it on Election Day, November the 8th, you can go any other time to go vote. We are not stopping you from going vote. Please, 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 please make sure you go and fill out your ballot.
And please don't vote because somebody showed up all of a sudden. If you don't know the people, don't vote for them.
Right.
If they have not helped to impact your community, don't vote for them. If they have not come and asked you to vote for them, don't vote for them. Okay? Because whoever works hard is because they really value your vote. That's what I liked about you. Man, you came on the scene. I didn't know you that well, but you came on the scene and you was everywhere. She was everywhere. Please vote for me. Please vote for me. And that's all right, because guess what? You have built a machine that's going to be unstoppable at the appropriate time.
Yes, I love it. And you can visit elections.delaware.gov to get the times.
Yes.
Because I know 11 to 7 some days and then 7 to 7 some other days. And if you can't go to the shipyard, it'll give you other dates, other locations, I meant to say, for you to be able to vote. So vote. It's important.
Yes. All right. Well, our time is up, you all. Listen, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Shanae Darby.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Source. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 5 p.m.